Welcome to Women Making a Difference, PJSAO women who inspire and motivate.
Starcinda Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, so often our community gets to hear from me as the elected state's attorney, but Starcinda, you're working really hard in our office every single day to protect our residents as well. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the work that you do in our office?
Sure. I'm assigned to the post-conviction unit, and what we do are violations of probations. Once a person has a conviction, then they're placed on probation. And if they commit another offense or violate that probation, then my unit handles those cases. And I also handle motions for reconsideration to change sentences once they're completed.
Can you kind of talk about the work that you are doing in the context of today? You know, there's a lot of discussion around not only police reform, but criminal justice reform in general, and reducing mass incarceration and giving second chances. Can you talk a little bit about how you put your work in the context and what you're looking at when you're evaluating these motions for reconsideration or violations?
Yes, it's funny you should ask that because the state just did a Justice Reinvestment Act, I apologize, in which it limits the penalties that the state can impose for people who commit violations of probation. It used to be that if you committed an offense or you violated your probation, you can get the remaining backup time and go right back in jail for however long. Now they limit it. They make minor infractions, lesser infractions, and then bigger fractions. So it gives us the flexibility to just send someone to jail or not to jail for 1 day, 15 days, and not impose the whole backup time and give them greater penalties.
Yeah, and you know, in this area of law, which I think a lot of people are not familiar with, they're usually familiar with, you know, our office coming in on the front end, prosecuting individuals and seeking sentences and all of that. What they don't understand often is what happens after an individual is sentenced, what rights they have,
Yes.
and then the responsibility of our office and how we evaluate some of these reconsiderations. So what do you think about this role? Do you think, or how can we use this role that our office has to make our justice system fair or fairer while continuing to keep victims, you know, engaged and feeling like they receive justice and our community safe, of course? How do you kind of balance all of that?
Well, I think the key in my role is to evaluate each case personally, individually. Don't just slap everyone with the same broad brush. If the defendant missed a curfew because he had to work overtime and got home, forgot to call his agent if that's what he's supposed to do, then he shouldn't have to go back to jail because he missed a curfew day. So it allows me the flexibility to say, oh, he has a good excuse. Maybe we won't go forward on this violation of probation. Maybe we'll just give him an opportunity. It was a mistake, and we'll just continue him on probation to see how he does. So it's ending the cycle of mass incarceration, but just not putting people in jail just to be putting people in jail.
Right. And how do you deal with the victims? Are they notified? Do you take their opinions or thoughts into consideration? Let's say, and I'm talking specifically on those motions to reconsider the sentence and things like that. How do you evaluate that?
Yes, for motions to reconsider, it's a different standard. The victim is supposed to be notified by our office. It's a requirement. And we take into account the ongoing effect. I take into account the ongoing effect of the crime. If it's a robbery, you know, maybe the person has moved to another location and is able to recover. As long as they don't see the defendant, they're okay with reconsidering the sentence. But if it's a rape or something more violent, then those things can stick with you. And so even if the person has completed 5 years or 6 years, it still may not be time to reevaluate things, in which case the person should stand by whatever sentence that they had. So I just think it is, again, on case-by-case basis, but it also involves the type of crime too. So if it's something that's more serious, we want the victim's impact, and if it's still affecting them years later, then maybe it's not time for the defendant to be out of jail just yet.
So can you tell me, like, how does this impact you as a person? Because even though, when we come to this job, we are neutral, we evaluate things based on facts, and we apply the law, but we are also human beings. And I know that a lot of the issues you deal with, because these are primarily circuit court issues where you do have pretty significant crimes that have been committed, emotions on all sides. How do you process that as a human being? How do you go home every night and sleep well, hopefully? And like, how does this affect you? And how do you keep your sanity in what could be a very, difficult situations that you have to deal with daily?
Yeah, early, I've been in the office now for 13 years. So early on, it was more difficult to sort of separate things. But I have my faith. I go to church every Sunday and I pray every day. And that sort of keeps me grounded. And I just keep at it because I want to see change in the world. So I keep at it, stay at my post, and try to affect what I can affect. And that's sure this counting.
Absolutely. So I do appreciate having people in the office like you who really have that mindset, because obviously I can't be there for every single case, but knowing that you have people who are discerning, who are not afraid to speak up, and also to hold our law enforcement partners accountable too when they make mistakes. That's really important. And to know that I have someone like you in the office it makes me feel really, really good. So thank you so much for the work that you do. I did want to give you an opportunity, if you have any parting thoughts or any message that you might want to give to aspiring attorneys or those who may even be interested in becoming prosecutors.
Just that, it's an important job that I have, and I appreciate it every day that I come into work. Even though we're working from home now, I appreciate it every time I'm on the clock. And it's important to have us represented on both sides. It's not just defending criminals or defending people who are accused of crimes. It's important to have us on the prosecutor side. It's important to have us on the bench. It's important to have us in defense. So I just try to do my part, and I think that if that's what you want to do, if you want to be in the criminal justice system, find your role and go out and get it, if that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Starcinda. I really appreciate you. I know that our audience has learned a lot about an area of prosecution that a lot of people really don't know about. So thank you so much for sharing the work that you do in post-conviction. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.